Welcome to A Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 17 of season 4. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I am Paul LePage.
Our fantastic producer from New York City, Mr. Alex Patakis. How's it going, Alex?
It's good. How are you guys?
Good. And Mr. Lord of the Rings himself, our great social media connoisseur, Mr. Danny Paletti. Danny, how are you tonight?
Doing pretty good, and I'll probably be doing even better throughout the pod because I'm trying to finish off the espresso wines that I got for Thanksgiving.
Nice. How were those? Were they good? Perfect for Thanksgiving?
Very good. Exactly what I wanted, which was an okay glass of wine because I don't know anything about wine.
That's good to know. Well, guys, we got 2 games to talk about. Before we get into each one, Paul, 1 win, 1 loss. Do you feel like that's acceptable for these last 2 games?
I do. Given the opponents as well, you'd have actually said it would have been quite Wolves-like this season if they'd have won on Saturday and lost last night. So I think that was the surprise over the past 2 games was the difference in both. But I think just to put a bow on it, that out of those 2 games, I think we could sometimes sleep on how tricky that Burnley tie was. It just that we got such a crap record against them and we always struggle. So I think to get 3 points, certainly better than 2 draws. So if you're going to lose on Saturday, win on Tuesday, I think you're definitely taking that.
Well, guys, let's start off with that Saturday game. A 2-1 Arsenal win. They had to kind of go with a weird lineup, Danny, with Aït-Nouri out with an ankle injury. You had Lamina João Gomez out with accumulation of yellows. How do you think Bueno, Doyle, and Boubacar did in that contest?
I think it was all kind of okay. I mean, the letting in the 2 goals early was obviously not great, but it's funny when you look over the course of the whole game, I don't see anything that stands out as like an obviously bad game. And it's hard to pick out anybody that was disastrous. It's just the whole team wasn't really there for most of the game. And I think that extends to the guys who came in. I thought Hugo Bueno looked okay. I thought Tommy Doyle and Boubacar both did kind of what you expect them to do. They did the things that they're good at, but none of it was quite enough to keep us competitive with a really good team.
Paul, what do you think we need to be able to compete on a regular basis with Arsenal? Is that possible just with the resources Wolves have? And by compete on a regular basis, I mean expecting to go in and at least get a point.
I don't think we're too far off, and that may sound a little weird given the reflective positions in the table, but from Saturday, and I think O'Neill talked to it in his post-match interview, that first goal, it was something that they'd highlighted that was going to be a situation that they'd face, and they should have had a plan in place accordingly to stop it, and they didn't execute on that. And I think if you're able to get a collection of players that can meet those demands when you do play those top opponents, then I think that could stand you in really good stead, because they have shown this season, Man City, Tottenham, they can do it. It's just a matter of consistency, doing it on a regular basis. So there's that element to it. And then there is just those probably 1, maybe 2 game changes that we haven't got at the moment that you really need in a game like that. And the one I think that we're still sorely missing in those fixtures is Neto.
Alex, when Arsenal took that early 2-0 lead, if you had to put money on what the final score was going to be, what would you have guessed?
Oh man, I would say I would have had at least 3 goals for Arsenal. So probably 3-0, because there wasn't a whole lot of evidence that Arsenal was going to allow Wolves to do much. And there hasn't been for a large portion of the season, for many Arsenal opponents. Now, of course, I say that having just seen Luton score 3 goals on them, and really should have come away with something from that game. But I don't know. I can't even pinpoint exactly what it is. Of all the big 6 quote unquote teams, they just consistently seem like the worst matchup for Wolves. Like we know what we can do against Man City. We seem to be their bogey team. I feel like at least for the past 2 years, they've matched up very well with Spurs, and that's with multiple managers at the helm there. Liverpool, obviously, we thrashed them last year. This year it's maybe a different story, but Arsenal's just always kind of a pain in the ass. So I didn't expect to get on the score sheet at all. So I guess I should be pleased with the 2-1 result.
Paul, it looked a little dicey too when Jose Sa seemed to kind of tweak his back on that second goal. And it was weird because he didn't even make a save for it. I think the pass came across the box so quickly. It was like just a little tweak.
It did. It wasn't like it was a back injury by contact, or he got shoved or anything like that. But I don't know. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and put my back out. So he's a good few years younger than me. So happens to the best of us, but I didn't expect it off an EPL keeper.
Yeah, I've thrown my back out sneezing, so it's understandable. But despite all that, Dan Bentley coming in down 2-0. Wolves actually played pretty respectable from there on out, Danny.
Yeah, it just wasn't too bad. It's just such a funny game because the early goals make everyone feel bad. But if the goals had come, in the 30th minute and the 55th minute, I think we would look back on that game and say that was a good team and we did okay. And 2-1, I'm happy with that score line, considering we went there and got stomped at the end of the last season. So there wasn't terribly a whole lot to say until the Wolves goal, to be honest. Again, kind of Alex's point, I wish we'd created more. We just don't seem to ever, in the last few years at least, don't seem to be competitive against Arsenal. And it'd be nice to see more chances. But apart from that, I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot happening between their second goal and our only goal.
Am I crazy to say that I think that Sa going out probably, helped limit the amount of goals that Arsenal would have poured in? Because I do think there was an element of Bentley's in, or no longer going to try to play out of the back, which Arsenal was really suffocating Wolves at time and winning the ball back in advantageous positions. I think Bentley's better than I thought he was, but as he came in, I'm like, this is a championship caliber keeper. Just hoof it down the field. Let's make this a championship style game. And I feel like that helped Wolves a little bit, because they couldn't really do what they were trying to do early. So, I love Jose Sa. He's our number one, unquestionably. But I feel like it would have been a lot worse had he been in the entire game, unless we completely pivoted with him, and the Bentley substitution, I think, forced that to happen.
Yeah, I think there was an element too of Bentley comes in and it sort of wakes up the rest of the team, because I know you should be woken up by 2 fairly early goals, but they were also really good goals scored by Arsenal. And so you're like, well, Saka's an amazing winger. What are you going to do? That was a great strike from Odegaard. What are you going to do? But then it's like, okay, second string keeper is in. This could really go off the rails if we are not careful. And to be honest, obviously it could have gone off the rails whether Sa got injured or not, but maybe Dan Bentley coming in sort of woke up to okay, this is a very good team, backs against the wall. We will just try to limit everything that happens in this game and try to get a goal at some point.
So I'll admit, guys, I was a little worried that, the lemon juju was finally going to wear off. And then Cunha put it in the back of the net. Didn't result
it's
in
an
a
outstanding
win.
record for the salt and lemons.
The streak lives on, and it lived on after Burnley too. Paul, what were your final thoughts on the loss to Arsenal. I mean, Cunha's been on a tear as well. So do you view that as a positive?
Yeah, I think so. Especially like what we've been suffering the past like 2 seasons, just to have some attacking output is like a breath of fresh air. So to have a goal in a competitive loss in the end, we certainly probably didn't really deserve a point. I had the balance of play and they hit the post a couple of times, but to have that highlight, good to have a forward player in form scoring, and it was a great goal. So gives you confidence to build on. Hopefully next time he gets in that position again, he has another shot and score. So it's those positives you could take from Saturday and build on for sure.
Well, now let's get to the good news game. Even though it was a great game, Paul, Wolves came through on Tuesday with a 1-0 win over Burnley. It was good to see Lamina and Gomez coming back into the starting 11, wasn't it?
So Lamina definitely, just because you specifically know what you were going to get. Whilst I could see Gomez coming back in, I wouldn't have been surprised actually if Tommy Doyle had kept his place, purely based on the opponents and the ability for him to pick out a pass and play through the lines a little more. And I think another element that he offers, probably more than anyone else, and it's sorely missed when he's not there, is some delivery from a set piece that when it comes to a corner, he can beat the first man. So those types of elements can add up. So personally, I'd probably like to see Doyle retain, but I could see the reason why they both came back in.
Sarabia also came in, Alex. What do you think of that move?
I liked it. I think he's someone who I think is, also been clamoring for players in time and maybe causing a little bit of a, I wouldn't call it a ruckus, but a ripple about that. But I think it made sense for him to come in. And I actually think he did well. I think he's the kind of player in that game that I think you need to play because, Wolves don't have a ton of guys. Like they're so direct and without Neto and just his pure pace against a team like Burnley, I think they have, some trouble. They still have some trouble like breaking teams down that are just going to sit in and really try to make you like pick that lock. Where Sarabia, I mean, I have no other way of describing it other than he just tries some cool stuff that other players don't. And, plays a pass or two that I think some of our players, typically don't. So, and he also bought into the plan, right? Like he isn't always the type of player who's going to have a super high work rate defensively, but he was the reason why they won the ball back, and then he made a clever pass to Cunha for the assist on the Hwang goal. So you can see that he was bought into the game plan. So I was happy to see him get minutes, happy to see him contribute again, because for a while there it looked like what we thought was going to be a bargain buy was going to be someone who couldn't sniff the field, and now at the very least he's another option to bring in the right scenario, or an option to bring in off the bench in an area where they don't really have a lot of depth at the winger / forward, what position, I guess if we're just grouping all the attackers together and calling Bellegarde a winger too, then yeah, they need that.
Yeah, Danny, who do you think would you rather see in the starting 11 just on a regular basis, assuming Neto's not in? Would you rather see Sarabia or Bellegarde?
I think that Bellegarde probably suits more situations, and he's obviously a bit closer to Neto in what he does. But I don't know. It's an interesting question. Because I think that the thing that we lack with Neto out is someone creating. I mean, he is still joint top on assists or sole top, whatever. He's, and so I do wonder if we can find a more expansive place for Sarabia. I don't know. Bellegarde also set up a goal at Fulham, so maybe I guess I'll settle on my original answer, which is I think Bellegarde has it, but Sarabia is still there for the right kinds of matchups.
Well, it was not a pretty game at all, which you would expect from a weekday game with Burnley. But Hwang Hee-chan, he did it again. That Korean guy buried it in the 42nd minute. It's his 8th goal of the season. Guys, did any of you think he was going to score 8 goals in the entire season? Paul?
No, not at all.
Alex?
No, I didn't think anybody on this squad would really. I couldn't say comfortably anyone would get. I think I said Sasha could get 10, so I shouldn't say that, but certainly not Hee-chan.
Danny, what about you?
I was hoping, but I did not believe.
And Paul, I think it was you who texted on our little group after that goal that's the shot of somebody with superb confidence right now.
It was superb confidence in that he was able to take control of the ball, not panic, take a step, not the defender to the side, and place it effectively. He didn't smash it, didn't rush it. He knew exactly where he wanted to put it, and that's what he did. And I think, again, just in the past season 2 gone by, give him that particular chance, he'd have fluffed it. So to have him in those situations, because now we know that he could do it, it's how many more times can we get it to him in those types of situations? Because it seems like 9 out of 10 times now he's going to put the ball in the back of the net, which is great.
Yeah, it's crazy. By the way, we won't go over all of these until later in the season. But going back to the preseason top scorer for the season, Paul, you had Cunha with 12. I had Fabio with 12. Yikes. Chris Fisher had Fabio with 14. Alex, you did think somebody would get in double figures. You
It was
had
Big Sassy, right?
with 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a little bit. Boy, there are some
Long way to
stinkers. Just spoiler alert. Paul and Alex thought Matthias was going to be, player of the year for Wolves. So a lot has changed, guys.
Cunha, obviously, is what we meant.
Yeah. That is interesting. Come after Boxing Day, I think we'll be able to really start talking about players of the year. And there's several good candidates, honestly. And Neto would have been the runaway if he hadn't gotten hurt, I feel like. So, Hwang's 8th goal trails only Haaland, Salah, and Son. And now that was an assist from Cunha as well. Great assist. Goal contribution in 4 straight games, Paul. Pretty awesome, huh?
Again, is he proving that we don't need that central striker? Is he filling that role with goals and assists that we haven't had since Raul? And it's a different type of forward for sure. And I think it's something that we have to wrap our heads around as fans, that where Raul would often bully an opposing centre half and hold the ball up and knock it off and move away, we're not going to get that out of Cunha. But what does he offer that's different to Raul, that's better, and what he didn't offer? So is that dropping deep, picking up the ball and running and causing trouble that way? So yeah, keep it up. It could be we could have stumbled on a solution, and it's been there all along.
Alex, do you feel like he's starting to justify that £42 million price tag, or he still have a way to go?
I think so. I mean, goal contributions in 4 straight matches is nothing to sniff at. I mean, I think that, he's also someone who appears to have taken up somewhat of a leadership position for this group. He's someone who seems extremely committed to the club. I'm not saying he's going to be here super long. Like, I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care. I just love that he's invested right now. And also, like, to your way you phrased the question to Paul, it's like, if that 43 million really means that you're not going to need to buy another striker in January, but can invest in other areas of the team, then that's money well spent, because at this point, I'm trying to envision what Gary O'Neill would do if they bought somebody who would expect to be in the starting 11. That's a true number 9 every week, because once Neto is healthy, he still leads the Premier League in assists. Hee-chan is 4th in the league behind only like the guys who score the top 3 scorers every single season in goals. And Cunha does, everything for this team, assisting, now finishing, ridiculously high defensive work rate. So like none of those 3 can come out of the lineup. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I mean, it's a steep price tag. I think he has to continue his run of better finishing to truly justify it, but I think he's getting really, really close.
It is going to be interesting because I feel like you, it's like, well, yeah, we say we want another goal scorer, but like, where do they fall in? We already have problems getting minutes for Big Sassy.
We're scoring every game. Like,
yeah,
we're not used to this. Like, I think we're just conditioned to be saying we need a goal scorer because we've been saying it for years. and now we're like, well, wait a second, we do have guys who score.
I think the way that I'm starting to look at it, and I don't know what this says about me, but this might be what Jeff Shee says about it too. But the nice thing about it is that it gives you the freedom to go in for a striker in January, but only if it's really the right choice. That it doesn't have to be just anybody who can put the ball in the back of the net. And if we don't find that person, if the price isn't right or the player isn't right or whatever, then we can wait until summer. Because if we're keeping this up between Cunha, Hwang, Neto, maybe a goal here and there from Sasha or somewhere else, then do we really need, and I've heard this from a few people now, I feel like maybe it's become a more popular take online, but do we really need to go out and buy a striker? And I think that just says, like, I don't want us to just go out and buy any striker, because that's how you end up with a Cutrone or someone who looks good at their current team but may not fit in, and then you have another player sitting next to Sasha and Fabio who wants to get on but can't because the combination that we have currently is working perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all, especially when he didn't even get time in the Arsenal game. I mean, Fabio's definitely gone. It's just a matter if it's a loan or he's going to be sold off. And then you would need another striker there, but we're talking a number 3 guy. And like Alex was mentioning, I mean, how much do you spend for a guy that is clearly going to be 3rd in the pecking order? I don't know. A lot to think about. And we would have never thought this a couple months ago.
It's a great.
Do you think Hwang would be doing this, Danny, if Lopetegui was still here?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I guess I tend to believe probably not, only because from what I've seen last year and then this year by contrast with O'Neill, and also sort of what I've read about Lopetegui, I just think that Hwang is one of those that, like, kind of like Adama in a way, like, needs a manager who understands them and is like willing to like put their trust in them and like let them know that they are the guy to go do it and take a little bit of pressure off, but still give him a lot of confidence. And I'm not sure that Lopetegui was interested in that. He might have done so with someone like Cunha because that was kind of his guy. But I don't know that Hwang would. I don't know. I'd love to know.
Paul, the other big story from that game was Dan Bentley obviously had to start with Jose Sa out because of his back injury, and he got his first Premier League clean sheet. And it wasn't easy, was it?
It wasn't. That double save was so crucial in the grand scheme of things, because literally after that happened, it was pretty much our next attack that we went up the other end and scored. If they'd have scored first in that game, it'd have been a totally different scenario that they're facing. So I don't think you can put light on either of those 2 saves that created it. And even still, it was a weird game. We won 1-0. It wasn't pretty, but it wasn't like they were constantly hammering us for an equalizer either. And I wasn't super nervous throughout, and even with Bentley being in there was a certain level of confidence in the back line and him that they were going to lock it down pretty much. I think we're just probably all collectively nervous about if he continues to retain his place, whether anyone's going to pick up on that more aerial bombardment that might have been highlighted when we conceded late against Everton last season, and whether that's seen as a potential fault in his game long term. So jury's still out, I think.
Danny, have you seen any updates on Sa?
No, I mean, it was odd because all the reports before Burnley were that Sa would be fine for Burnley, and I was kind of surprised because even if it is a relatively minor thing, it's only 2 full days between Arsenal and Burnley, and you're having back spasms and you're gonna want to be out there. It's like, I don't know. With that kind of thing, it's like it's so easy to aggravate. I'd be surprised if they took a chance, which is of course what ended up happening. So I kind of assume that he'll be, again, they'll say that he's fine for Forest, but again, will they want to risk him? I guess it really just depends on how he's feeling, because we don't know the like exact nature of it. I've heard the phrase back spasms used, but I don't know if that came from, someone in the medical department, or if that's just like, his back hurts, so I'm gonna put back spasms in this article that I'm writing.
How long, Alex? How many games could Sa miss before you get genuinely concerned and, okay, he needs to be back now? Because I don't know if Bentley can last this long.
I would say certainly past this weekend. I would be fine with Bentley playing this weekend if it means having a greater idea of him actually being okay. I mean, beyond that, like you start to get back into some pictures where I feel like you really want your number one and you want a shot stopper. Going to West Ham is going to be difficult. They also have some very informed players. Jared Bowen, I think, is tied with Hwang on 8 goals. So they've got someone who could say the same thing on only Haaland's son and Salah's outscoring him. So honestly, I would say this weekend, roll with Bentley, and then let's get the shot stopper back in.
Paul, who's your man of the match? Are you going Bentley or Hwang or maybe Craig Dawson, perhaps?
I'm going. It's a tricky one because there was no one like star man stood out a mile, and you probably picking someone who got a 7 out of 10 out of a bunch of those who got 6s, and maybe someone who pushed him close. But mine's actually Semedo, in a team that didn't offer that much creatively. He often turned into some sort of a creative outlet, which was unheard of from him at times. That break that he created in the first half, that he burnt Charlie Taylor off with pace and then put a ball across that, was it a fluke? Because 99% of those that come in from him from that side are pretty dreadful most of the time. He put it on a plate exactly right where it should have been, in the middle of the goal. And I'm not knocking Sarabia for the way that he took it, because I think that was his only choice at the point in time that he came to it. But that just slight execution change would have been a phenomenal goal if that had rippled the top corner. So I think defensively, they said, they were panic. He was panicked a little before that. The Burnley winger went off. I wasn't so. I didn't see that so much. I thought he was just getting to grips with him a little. So I'm going to give it Semedo.
Danny, your man of the match?
Yeah, I'm not having any of that Koleosho was giving him trouble, even if Koleosho might end up playing for the US team at some point. I mean, like, I don't know. That's what I've seen from Semedo. He always looks like he's flustered, even when he's not. He looked flustered against Jeremy Doku, but Doku didn't get anything against him. So that's just the way he looks. And yeah, I thought Semedo was actually really good. And I'm tempted to agree with Paul and just say that I think Semedo man of the match. Again, it's very much a 7 out of 10 versus all of the 6s out of 10. but it's pretty trendy on Twitter to be dunking on Liam Keane for giving him a 6 out of 10 on his player ratings.
Alex?
Yeah, agree with everything on Semedo. I still think I would go Bentley to be called upon and put in a game where you may have expected it to, maybe be a little easier in terms of the shots he had to stop. I think I'll give him some credit for that. And it's actually nice that he got to go against Arsenal and get that under his belt, whatever it was 60, 70-ish minutes or whatever ahead of this match. So
it was over 60 because
composed.
there were a handful of FPL managers who managed to get a clean sheet out of him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, good point. Yeah, so I'll give it to Bentley. But it's close, everybody equally meh.
You know what one other thing before we wrap up this game that I thought was interesting? Lamina was in spots to get a goal several times again this game. I find that very interesting with him really kind of serving as a defensive mid. There was like 3 times where he had a legit shot or a chance at a shot.
I wonder if that's, an actual instruction now, I think it used to be more that they would sort of alternate, with João Gomez coming forward or Lamina coming forward. And I don't know, this is probably reading too much into it, but it just seems like Lamina has had more success going forward than João Gomez, apart from that debut goal. And so, I'm happy for him to be pushing forward and João Gomez to be sitting a bit more.
I think it's contingency for how that duo evolves as well, that if Lamina's 30, he's not going to be around for so much longer, especially with the type of game that he plays. I'd imagine if he's getting into his early 30s, 32, 33, you're not going to be able to pull out those performances week in, week out. So I think they're probably looking to hone Lamina as that genuine defensive midfielder again, having those years on his side. If he sticks around, then that's ideal. So I'd probably they're planning around that would be my idea.
Yeah,
I'm starting to feel Alex like Lamina is here for the long term. I could see him like maybe not retiring as Wolves, but definitely not leaving for a bigger club.
He's kind of in that perfect sweet spot of like he's just old enough that he wouldn't get another big move, and Wolves are kind of just big enough where he wouldn't necessarily be lured away by the type of club that would still be willing to come after a player of his age. So I think that really works well for him. And yeah, I mean, he's such a vital part of what they do right now. That I like to see that whether it's a license to get forward and try to get involved on the score sheet that Gary O'Neill is giving him, I think it's well deserved.
It's got an element of the Moutinho twilight years about it, actually, in that if you're going to get him to 32, 33, what a player to have to come off the bench and to try and lock a game down, or to come on and snap a few ankles and disrupt it for 20, 30 minutes, once a week, rather than that full tilt 90. So again, I think it is that perfect combo that you've got that player in that situation right now that can serve you well, but could be there for the long term, and you get real value for him.
And I think he's been at spots where the fans turned on him, and I really think he likes that Wolves fans have embraced him. I think that plays a key in it.
One little thing, I know we just spent the last several minutes kind of saying that this game was a bit boring, but I did have a little reflection while we were talking about that. Like, something I appreciated about this game is that when is the last time that we won an ugly game like this? 1-0 against a not very good opponent and didn't look that great ourselves, but still came away with the victory. I don't know. I feel like over the last 18 months or maybe even more, it's hard for me to come up with a game like that. And honestly, I would rather, I would, even though obviously it's extremely fun to win against the Big Six and go on our little drinking binges, which we do, that like, it would be nice if we had a more consistent showing against teams like Burnley is, and just like not play very well but still win because we're a professional team. The only thing I could come up with was like in the spring last year we played West Ham under Lopetegui, and like it was 1-0 and Daniel Punnett scored, and it was just like a nothing game. But even in that one, I think our goal was more threatened in that game than in this one. And so, I'll take more of those. I mean, if we could have gotten the same win against Luton and Sheffield this year, think where we'd be.
Yeah, you got to say as well that we still need that body of work from O'Neill when it comes to those opponents at home. It was his first bottom of the league opponent, where all those victories previously had been from those that we really weren't expecting. So yeah, maybe it's a nice change that we're going to pick up some points against these sides rather than previous seasons where it's been a struggle. We go goal down and the writing was on the wall. So
it's honestly like
it.
very, very damaging to my mental health that going through seasons where we lose twice to Huddersfield or something. I would, if we could limit that kind of behavior, I'd love that.
What I'm hearing is you're also looking for them to help out your physical health by having like what you basically described as just a sober victory, like a victory that's so like ho hum that we don't have to go celebrate it.
Boo.
And,
Yeah, exactly.
But also it doesn't end up in a loss that we have to drink our sadness away. So I'm with you on that.
I don't know if I'm going that far. I don't know if I'm willing to give that up.
I think surely, I think that was one, Danny, that would fall under there.
But see, that's the other way. That was like legitimately depressing. Like that was a horrible performance against a team of semi-pros. like that was one of the hardest watches.
Paul, didn't we watch that one at the bar?
We
together?
did, yeah. I'm just thinking
Lord.
of all of these shockers that we've watched. The torch that we put ourselves through. We do need some of this this change to embrace us for sure. Long may it continue.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. So there was some other news out there. One of the very interesting ones is Jonny was not in the squad at all Saturday or Tuesday due to a training ground incident. Danny, does that surprise you to hear?
Yes. I'm also not quite sure what to make of it yet. I just feel like a lot of the reports have been very vague, and some have sort of held their hands up and said so. I think like Liam Keane has said, like we don't really know what exactly happened. And I don't know. The only thing that we have to go on is the way that O'Neill has talked about it. And I think that the fact that it's sort of been passed up the chain, so that it's sort of, people higher than O'Neill and Wolves are dealing with it in the sense of like, well, we'll deal with it internally and whatever. That's the only thing that makes me think there's legitimate sort of cause for concern and like his behavior, because like, training ground incident and he isn't selected for a game could mean like there was a rough tackle and he got up in someone's face and it was just a bad scene for 15 seconds. And then, they just decided to like, let's move on from this. And so I don't know. It's very odd because everybody always speaks so glowingly of Jonny and his professionalism. O'Neill himself even said that a few weeks ago. And there was that unconfirmed report that him and Raul had some strong words with Lage. But literally no one has ever been able to confirm that happened. So it's hard to know what is going on with this one. It feels weird. I mean, I can understand. I think, this isn't a new take, but I can understand if Jonny is a bit upset that he's played left back for so many years, and when Nori and or Hugo Bueno are not available, that Doherty gets to go there, who has played on the left very rarely. I could understand being upset at that, but I don't know. In the absence of like any information about what actually happened, I have no idea what to think.
Paul, what's percentage that we see Jonny back in a Wolves kit?
Low, probably single digit low, and I think that's the reason possibly why it's above O'Neill now. And again, you can take training ground incidents a number of ways, like a kick out and a push and a scuffle. Yeah, probably happens often on training grounds, never reported, and the players involved might not like each other or something, but they're professional enough about it, or they may shake their hand and it's forgotten about. That would take a player out, I'd probably say, disciplinary wise, for a game. So now that he's missing for 2, and it's out of O'Neill's hands and it's someone more senior at the club looking at it, I probably think that talks to the severity. So if it is severe, they could be looking at it probably cancelling his contract. That could be the extreme of it. And I think if that happened, you wouldn't be surprised after this period of time. And I think it would talk to the actual severity of what happened.
We also had Yerson Mosquera's end of his U.S. journey, Alex, with Cincinnati losing in the conference finals. Their manager sure seems to think he's not coming back. Wolves aren't going to loan him back to him. What do you think his next stop is?
That's really hard because I do still think Wolves need one more center back, and it kind of sucks because, like, if they don't make any type of FA Cup run, and they have been drawn against Brentford in the FA Cup, so like there's a good chance that they're just not even gonna have a run at all, and they could not be rotating their squad as much as they expect to be in the early part of 2024. But Santi Bueno is kind of locked into that like first one off the bench, but beyond him, there's not really anyone else. Like, you know, I think they're looking at center halves for January. So if that's the case, and it's going to be someone who's not going to start, they're probably going to be someone who's at the level of Mosquera, you know, like who, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it because I want him to be playing, but at the same time, like I want him back in the squad, and given an opportunity or two to shine. So if it ends up being back at Wolves until the end of the year, like I wouldn't necessarily be that disappointed with it.
I think I heard Paul, the tentative plan is to maybe find a championship team where he can go on loan for second half of the season. Would you be good with that?
Again, if the stars align with the balance of the squad, I think that's ideal, just because, again, you get to know the rough and tumble of the Championship. You're playing Tuesday, Saturday continually through that second half of the season, pretty much. So if he's getting that regular game time in a tough league, if he's able to secure a team that's playoffs-ish or maybe pushing, then he's going to get a lot from it. So I think that would be a good move.
And Alex alluded to it, but the FA Cup draw happened, and Wolves, while everybody else gets to play, you know, these fun championship teams that Josh can't pronounce, Wolves got Brentford on the road. Paul, are you more disappointed because we don't get to see a different team, or because this may be a team that's hard to advance past?
In a way, I'm always a little. I want to see us up against a team that you probably don't see very often, but then the Wolves fan in me always has that negativity of that it's got to turn into a banana skin and we're going to be embarrassed. So that kind of factors out of it. I'm not that disappointed in this tie, in that I think it allows for some rotation against a really good opponent, and away from home, I think that takes the pressure off us a little, that they'll probably start as favourites. So I'd be quite willing to to back us in that one. Whereas if we were at home again against the same opponent, I'd probably be more nervous.
Excited, Alex, or disappointed?
I mean, Paul makes a compelling case. I would say I'm maybe just a little disappointed because if this were last season, I wouldn't care. Like last season was all about survival, like we're now this season, we made joke about the 7 points VAR took, and we would be, I think after today, like fifth or something, like maybe actual legitimate European contenders. But I have to be real with myself. Wolves aren't really playing for a whole lot, because I really think they are too good to go down this year. So this would be a really nice year for a cup run, and Gary O'Neill seems well suited to be a manager who can set the team up for a big game that they have to play to go upset somebody in a situation that where they, eventually down the road in the latter rounds of this tournament, you're going to run into the same people that are always there. So I think I'm a little disappointed in that we may not even get to see this thing take off from the ground at all. So, I agree with everything Paul said, but I still think I would rather just go, kick the crap out of Oxford United or something, and just get more matches that we get to enjoy.
Well, I'm
The
disappointed
Oxford United
because I
fans
had
really
them.
be in our mentions now.
I'm disappointed
sorry.
because I had them making it to the semifinals, which could still happen. By the way, Ivan Toney scheduled to come back the week of January 16th. So that first regular season matchup and the FA Cup, he will not play.
Is he allowed to be purchased via transfer while he's suspended? Like, will he be playing in January for Arsenal? Or
That's
will
a
he
good
be playing in
question.
January for Brentford because he has no choice?
That's a good question.
I assume that he could be purchased by any club at any time, but he's just still couldn't play. So if someone wanted it to buy him in the summer, they could have paid Brentford and negotiated with him, and then he'd have to sit on, in the training ground until January. I don't know.
Yeah.
I bet I know one team that won't get him. Newcastle.
Yeah. They're done dealing with gambling suspensions.
Yeah. I mean, it could be more like a support group, actually. They could help each other through it.
So the wild thing about this Brentford poll, as you know, you guys, from the group chat that I am not a fan of this draw for the FA Cup, is that we play them like a week earlier. We play them on December 27th away.
Mm-hmm.
Wolves fans then come home 3 days later and we play Everton at home. And then on the 6th, they all go back down to London and watch us play Brentford again. And so depending on what happens in that league game, it just changes how people feel about going all the way back down. And then if we draw with them, if we tie, there's a replay in late January.
Liverpool all over again.
Yeah. Let's hope that all the cameras are turned on. And then we play them again in the league on February 10th. So we could potentially play them 4 times in the space of about 6 weeks. So it's just not interesting to me. Playing teams twice in a season is more than enough sometimes. And I don't have much interest in watching us play Brentford 4 times between Christmas and February 10th.
Yeah. And then finally, Danny found these, and they were good watches. It is Hwang Hee-chan and friends trying out Korean food. And there were 2 videos. The first one was Korean snacks, which was enjoyable. The second one was eating Korean barbecue and a few other things in there. Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from the 2 videos?
I think it confirmed many of the things that we suspected about the palates of a few of the players of English and Irish heritage. um,
Max
that was
Kilman had
me.
his parents had to like only make pizza rolls and like peanut butter and no, they didn't do peanut butter and jelly
No,
sandwiches.
definitely not peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We know that.
Yeah.
He must have had some nourishment though to turn out 6'5" and
Yeah.
be pretty well built. So yeah, they did something.
Yeah, definitely did something right. Yeah, I think that was maybe my main takeaway, but it's also really hard to know whether or not they just can't like without tasting the food yourself. Like, is it not spicy food that they think is spicy, or is it actually pretty dang hot? And then some of these other guys just handle spice really, really well.
So I've had about half of the stuff.
Okay.
The spicy rice that was at the beginning of the first one, the spicy rice cake that Doherty just loves. I also love that. And that can have a real kick to it if it's done properly. The kimchi, that must have been a real sour thing of kimchi. In the second video, that was today. And kimchi can get pretty potent.
It depends. There's mild and spicy kimchi.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, and it also depends on how long it's been fermenting.
Right.
I mean, so that can just depend. I think my funniest part was everybody's using chopsticks, bravo. And then there's Max Kilman who's using a fork and knife and eating it with the fork upside down. And even the host was like, that's the most British way to eat that I've ever seen.
They've inspired me though. There's a couple of good Korean places in my area. I'm right next to Johns Hopkins. There's a lot of international students in the area, and especially Korean students. And so there's like, honestly, even in my little part of Baltimore, there's like 3 or 4 pretty decent Korean restaurants. I need to go back to them. It's been a while.
Now you need to go to an actual like Korean restaurant. Don't go to a trendy like Korean barbecue place.
I can promise you these places are not trendy because one of them is literally I mean, it's like a few blocks away from a methadone clinic, which, is like, it really depends on the part of Baltimore you're in. It changes very much like block to block. And also I'll say, here's the name of it. Are you ready for ready for the name of this? And I'm going to try to do it justice because I don't speak Korean despite my love for Korean food. The name of this place a few blocks down from me is called Youngkok.
Yeah, they got jokes. They got jokes. That was on purpose too. Now, if you go in and it's like white people serving you, just walk back out. That's not the place. That's not the place. Paul,
the place I miss the most, and I actually don't think that they're in operation anymore. When I was in college at UMBC, some students that I knew who had friends who were Korean or were Korean themselves, like took us down to this place in Annandale, Virginia, which by the way is a ridiculous drive. Talking about driving distance in the US versus the UK. We're driving like an hour and a half to go get Korean food. But there's this place that, of course, it's like the hibachi style, like there's grills on the tables and whatever. And every weekend night, so Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday, they would have this all-you-can-eat buffet for the Korean barbecue stuff. Because it was just like they had marinated it all. And if they didn't get rid of it, it would go bad. And so it was only after 10 p.m. So we had to get there very late. And for $11, all you can eat Korean barbecue, it was phenomenal. Just imagine that video with Hwang Chan, but me and my friends just absolutely destroying ourselves on Korean marinated meats, and then having to somehow drive an hour and a half back to Baltimore.
Now, Paul, you married a beautiful Hispanic woman. I'm sure you've had spicy food now. How were you able to take it? Were you one of those English guys that just didn't like spicy like we saw with Kilman and some of those other guys?
I was blessed that I was born and raised in the Black Country, where at the staple dish after fish and chips was a curry. So that's where I got my spice taste from, the Indian food.
Nice. Nice.
Good.
So one other thing I loved, we joked about this a few years ago that Connor Cody and Indomitore needed their own sitcom. We absolutely need Hwang Hee-chan and Jose Sa, like cameras just following them around, because these dudes very clearly hang out with each other all the time. I think that was the biggest takeaway I got there, was these guys are like BFFs, right, Danny?
Yeah. I guess it's worth leaking on here that I'm working on something with it because I just couldn't get over it. So I've done some editing, and it's really fun. I mean the fun thing is, I hate to say it because I would love for them to come to the US, but if they go to Korea next summer, first of all, they're obviously going to do a video where they go to a restaurant.
Oh.
Second, Sa is going to be the second most popular player in the team, because they know that he's besties with Hwang. And we found out from this video that apparently, because they posted on Instagram that he likes choco pies, which are like little, confections, like little
They're
Debbie
good.
type-
They're good. I've
type
had
thing.
them. They're good.
Korean fans have now sent him boxes of choco pies. So he's already on their radar. And so we might get that talk. Hold up. We have contacts. Let's get Russell Jones on the horn.
Hey, Russell Jones loves Hwang, and I really think if they already knew how marketable he was, I think the Tottenham game, when they saw the amount of attention that was happening in Korea even more, really opened their eyes. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Tottenham. And
the sequel, we started with, this is so weird and dark because it starts with Code Red with Raul. And then you go to Sasha. They do a little 3-part thing on him. Part 3 is much more lighthearted, much more lighthearted, and it's a 3-part documentary of Hwang and Sa going around Korea during the summer.
I would love it.
I will love it.
Yeah.
It also just warms my heart so much how happy Hwang is when he realizes that his teammates, in this case specifically Jose Sa, have learned just a few words in Korean. Like, that's like, I don't know how else to describe that other than just being extremely cute. Like, that's what a great teammate Sa is. Like, he seems like an absolute maniac, but he also in real life, like off the field, seems like probably the guy I'd want to hang out with most now. The most fun and the most lighthearted. So that's really cool.
Koreans get a kick out of Americans or non-Koreans speaking Korean. My mother-in-law still does it. When her friends come over, I'll say a few Korean words, they get a laugh. And so, like, when he's saying mashi so, I say that all the time to my mother-in-law. Oh, mashi, asking if I was making dinner for this mashi so. But yeah, it's just, that is the ultimate bromance. Like, we joke Paul and bromance with an option to buy. It is definitely bromance city between Jose Sa and Hwang, and I am all for it. God, I wish we could get on like the Amazon behind the scenes thing. This team would be so much fun with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Danny, if you haven't seen those videos, go to Twitter, otherwise known as X, WLW Pod, and Danny has posted those videos, and they're a good time. My mother-in-law even watched it. She got a kick out of it. So.
Enjoying a whole lot of Wolves? Whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening, don't forget to rate and review the show so that we can make sure to continue to grow the pack. Thanks for listening, and up the mighty Wolves.
All right, guys. We do have a game on Saturday, and it is on Saturday at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central, and it's against Nottingham Forest and our old friend Morgan Gibbs White. However, Paul, will Steve Cooper and his big old teeth, will they be on the sideline?
Well, is he on the chopping block, figuratively and literally at the moment? It's an interesting one. I think now you've seen Heckenbaum go at Sheffield United and Chris Wilder come in for him. That kind of sets the domino effect off. And if they've had that twitchy finger hovering over Cooper, then losing 5-0 at Fulham is probably one that might force your hand.
Alex, what do you think? What do you think he's gone?
I think it's a matter of time. I don't know if he's gone before this match. I hope he's not. Because I would hate for the new manager bounce to ruin what should be another nice, sober home win for Wolves. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, it's a matter of time. And I think whoever kind of, puts an end to it, a lot of us will thank them for, I don't know, there's something so aggressively annoying about Cooper. He kind of fits into that category of punchable faces we were talking about with players.
Luckily there's a big target.
Maybe yeah, maybe Wolves can deliver the knockout blow.
Paul, how does dental insurance work in the UK? Because I know you guys' health insurance works differently. Like, if he gets let go, does he? Alex is dying over here. If he gets let go, does he still have dental insurance through the country? Like, how's that work?
So I don't think dental insurance really exists. Like, there's stuff through the NHS, but
you don't.
Yeah, that only that only goes to a certain point. I think some employers may offer it privately, but that's more of a perk of a role than being standard, or you must have it.
Wonder how much his premiums would be if he had to get a policy once he gets let go from Nottingham Forest. Or does he just say fuck it? I don't know.
But it will just be even weirder if he then just gets like the veneers and has just like a perfect huge shiny white like set of
that would be might be more upsetting, to be honest.
Honestly, yeah.
It's like that really ugly girl in high school, and then you come back for the reunion and she's had like a nose job and a boob job, and you're like, holy cow.
Well, what it exactly is like all the footballers who get hair implants, because let me tell you, my shock seeing Rob Holding playing for Crystal Palace.
Example ever of this. It's insane.
You want to know another one? Look at Hector Herrera years ago and what Hector Herrera is now. That dude had his like ears sewn to his head or something. I don't know what it was. And I didn't know this until I was Uber driving a Mexican fan, and she was like, oh yeah, HH has had a lot of work. Like, that was a big joke in Mexico. And then I looked at it, I was like, holy cow. Yeah, he's had a lot. Guess that that Madrid salary went to a good use, huh? So, Paul, what do you expect the lineup to look like?
Yes, it's a tricky one, actually. There's certain elements of potentially putting out the same starting 11. Still, if maybe he's looking to rotate. I don't know if it's because I'm hung up on Tommy Doyle, but again, I see it as another potential.
I'm sensing another bromance with an option to buy with Paul and Tommy Doyle is what I'm starting to do.
I just think if they could probably pick out Joe Gomez, coughing up that chance that Bentley had to save him from as potential question mark about him keeping his place. I wouldn't be surprised to see the same starting 11. My only the one area I would like to, obviously I'd love to have Neto back. I'd probably even love more at the moment would be to have Outnuri come back in, because there's still an element. I don't think that Hugo Beno's 100%. There's like, he seems a little behind it, or not as confident in his own body to really take on his opponent. So I don't think he's fully there yet. And if Outnuri's ready and able to come back, I think he'd probably come straight back in.
Alex, would you make any changes to put some more bite in the offense against Nottingham Forest?
Are you doing a tooth thing there with no, yes, my answer is yes, and I think I would take Paul's change. Like, I am hoping, and maybe I'm too confident, that Wolves could have a chance of keeping a clean sheet without Gomez and Lamina. Like, missing them both at once really sucked, especially given the opponent. But I also feel like it might have tainted how we feel about how much we need both of them, because I think they can do perfectly well and survive with Lamina and Doyle in the midfield. And, we can play this back when we concede 3 goals to Forest after, not starting the 2 of them. But I want to see more of Doyle. Like, this feels like a player that could be, a serious face of the team in the next, 4 years, 3 years, even. And from what we've seen of him, he's pretty creative. And God, please, like, Bellegarde had his chance, then Sarabia. Like, somebody needs to be able to take set pieces. So just put this kid in there and just let him do it.
Now, Danny, do you think it'll be Bellegarde or Sarabia starting on the wing, since, Sarabia started on Tuesday and he's a little long in the tooth age-wise, so.
Yeah, I only caught the very end of the Forest game against Fulham, but I feel like I'd like someone with a little bit more physicality in that game. Maybe it's more just because I'm worried that whatever old tensions there are will boil up again, and it'll be a bit more physical, and I don't know that Sarabia can handle that. Although it's funny that yeah,
you're planning for a brawl.
It's okay. We've still got Tony starting, so he'll handle things. No, I don't know. It's funny that I think that, because in some ways the real, like, instigators of that, a lot of them are not with the team anymore. Mateus Nunes was a big part of that. Obviously, Diego Costa part of that as well. And even Morgan Gibbs-White got benched for the Fulham game. Now I don't, he'll probably start against us for a number of reasons, partly because obviously there's less of a quick turnaround, but yeah, I think I prefer Bellegarde and a slightly more direct style. From the goals I saw that Fulham scored, I just think being able to get a clever interception through someone like Lamina and being able to move it quickly up the field. Sarabia, I think, showed a lot of his usefulness in the Burnley game, but one thing that still bothered me a bit was how much he seems to slow down the play. And sometimes that can be a benefit to the team, but I think in this one, I'd rather have someone who's a bit more direct.
Seems weird that Sarabia seems a better fit when we're going to play a better opponent at home, like a top half team that's going to be more attacking, that he's probably going to pick up a little more space and not have a man so close to him, because the opponent's going to try and be taking more of the onus of the game and be on the front foot. Whereas these Burnley opponents, Nottingham Forest on Saturday, again, more like aggressive, scrappy. It doesn't seem like a natural fit for Sarabia's game.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll be curious to see what the weather's like too, because it was pretty cold, in Tuesday's game. Even the officials were talking about it, and I'm sure Nottingham Forest wouldn't like teeth-shattering weather. So, all right, that's all the tooth puns I got, Alex.
Are you sure?
I don't know. I may come up with some more. You never know. Let's see. So let's make some predictions here. Danny, you are on a roll. You've got 9 points out of the last 4 games, including 6 this week. Bravo, sir. Shocking. I also picked up 4 points this week. But so Danny and Alex tied with 13 points. I'm right behind you guys at 12. I'm biting at you guys' heels, Alex. And then Paul. Well, you did get a point on Tuesday. So
yeah, the manager might need firing and bring fresh blood in, but I'm confident I'll turn it around come the end of the season.
Yeah, you just need one of those 3-pointers, which you have not gotten this year. You were at 6 points. So, Alex, I'll let you take the the first chomp out of this and figure out your.
Oh man. All right. What are we? I'm so thrown off. I'm taking Wolves to win. I'm just trying to decide how many goals is too many to predict them to score, only because of how many goals Forest have already conceded this week, which I hate. Like when Burnley was pouring in goals of their victory over the weekend, I was like, perfect, because they're going to run out of them. It's kind of the opposite. So now I'm like, well, Forest really can't concede 5 goals to Fulham and then go and do a similar thing to Wolves. So I'll say 2-1 Wolves. And 2 feel-good home victories. Good week. And we move on from there.
You said 2-0?
2-1.
2-1. All right.
Yeah.
Danny?
You took my answer. Now, do I
Sorry.
change to be interesting or do I just stick with it? I don't know. There's something about it. I will go slightly different. I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about another clean sheet, which honestly I would like. It's hard to say you'd like it even more than a win, because a win is worth 3 points. But there was part of me going into that Burnley game that felt like I'd kind of love a clean sheet even more than a win. Although it's hard to get excited about, a 0-0 with Burnley in December. But I would like another clean sheet, so I will go 2-0 Wolves.
Okay. Paul?
Mine's contingent on Loverboy still being in his position. If he is, I think it'll be the straw that breaks the camel back, and we'll win, and it'll be comfortable. So I'm going 3-0. 3-0.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Nice.
And do you think who does the fingers in the ear celebration first?
Oh, that is just like icing on top of the cake if it's Cunha, so you want all you want Cunha scoring, doing that, you want Hwang keeping up his record, and then that bonus goal from someone else. So
Neto would have been the one to do it if he's playing. He absolutely would have, rubbed it.
I'll tell you what, if any of the Wolves players listen to this podcast, which, let's be honest, they obviously do.
They obviously do.
If you want to rile up the crowd and get the Molyneux crowd really excited, score a goal, ideally early, and do the fingers in the ears. And I think from then on, it'll be like the Man City game, where it's just raucous insanity.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be fun. So I definitely like where your guys are going with this. And when I think of 9 in Forest, I think of 2. Those just 2 big old teeth. So I'm gonna say 2-0 Wolves. And that will be it for Steve Cooper. So I had to get in all the jokes I could, because I don't think he's gonna be around. Danny, you did mention Lopetegui though? Oh, well.
Oh yeah. I don't know. There aren't any solid rumors, but he's still hanging out.
Let's start him then.
Yeah, I know.
I honestly, I swear to God, I feel like we're more reliable source than where half of these rumors start.
He's still hanging around England, and I mean, even funnier, to be honest, was the fact that Guillaume Balaguer, who is his journalist friend, was posting literally like 3 hours or so ago, right around the time of the end of that game, the Forest game. He posted on Twitter, looking for your help, wanting to take someone to a restaurant in the Leicestershire area to be impressed. High quality, lovely place, great service. Problem is, it has to be next Monday. Any ideas? And obviously his replies are full of Wolves fans saying, "Are you sure it's not Nottinghamshire?"
That's fantastic.
So, I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest thing if Lopetegui is the one traveling with Forest to Molyneux. But I will say, if he had trouble dealing with Jeff's tight purse, I know that Mariakis has been a lot more free spending, but I just have a feeling that they're going to butt heads in a big way. If
Yeah,
that
he
ends
thinks
up
FFP
happening.
was a problem here.
I was gonna
Wait until
say,
next
like,
year for us.
when does that come back around to bite them, and then they can't spend it all, and then
It's gotta be
they
this
still
next year.
suck. It's
Yeah.
yeah. Good luck. Good luck with that.
Plus Balgay in the background, spicing things up with some for some interviews or whatever that stirs the pot. If that ends up happening, just put your stock in popcorn and
Yeah, I hope it happens because I think it spices up this the return fixture incredibly and kind of stokes the fire that was burning last year. We don't have Podence to spit on Brennan Johnson, who's also moved on to greener pastures. So
that's
we
right.
need somebody that's going to start
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yes, gestured. Maybe it didn't
A
actually.
spitting gesture.
Yeah, it doesn't count unless
A gesture common to the action of spitting.
there we go.
With slight drizzle. Alex, any no stupid questions this week?
All right, we'll keep it brief with one. Of course, our no stupid questions are brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines, showcasing 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Guys, it's December, holiday season is here. Some beautiful wines from Esfuerzo can make a perfect gift. Or if you're just planning for your own holiday festivities and you want to look like a smart sommelier and notable wine connoisseur, you can let Esfuerzo do the work for you. For a limited time, head to esfuerzowines.com, use the promo code WOLVES. You'll receive a 20% discount on your order. And just to note, place your orders by December 15th if you want to ensure that your shipment will certainly arrive ahead of the Christmas holidays. I know I will be doing that as well because I've kind of plowed through the one that I've had here from Esfuerzo. So our question comes via X, Twitter. I still don't know what we're officially running with. And it's from Chase Branch. And he says, Josh has proven the magical power of rubbing down with salt and lemons while wearing a team shirt. What effects would other fruits and vegetables have if used in the ritual? And what teams or players would you cast them on for good or evil? Careful.
So I definitely know the very quick answer to this. If Hwang, heaven forbid, gets hurt in any way, I'm rubbing kimchi on that body part.
Oof.
If it's his hamstrings, I am taking some kimchi and rubbing it all over to heal, because kimchi is good for you. In fact, my mother-in-law thought she heard on a Korean show that kimchi was a cure for COVID. Spoiler alert, it was not. But
get the CDC on us.
but that would be my obvious. If something happened there, I know I haven't done any more rubbing on the salt lemon because I don't want to mess with the juju. We've scored every game since then. But that would definitely be one. I don't think if something happened with him, I definitely wouldn't rub veggies because he clearly doesn't like veggies. So it'd have to be some kind of sweet fruit. I don't know, Paul, what are you thinking?
Mine is an apple a day keeps the doctor away for Pedro Neto.
Ooh, I like it.
Keep him free from injury and let's go.
Alex?
Now, does that mean you'll be doing the ritual daily? That's a lot of rubbing and a lot of apples.
Look, I'll rub kimchi on I'll rub kimchi on me every day to get Hwang back at this point.
I could eat an apple a day.
Yeah, if it means Neto playing the rest of the season, I think I would sign up for that as well. Kimchi seems like one that how, like no matter how many times you wash your hands, if you were like handling garlic in your hand, it's like it's still gonna smell like that. Like, don't you feel like kimchi might kind of be like
Yes.
that? Are you not concerned in any way that after 3 or 4 showers you're still gonna
Look, guys,
have kimchi?
I got kimchi in my house. My wife makes kimchi. My mother-in-law makes kimchi. Like, it's in my fridge. We have 2 jars of it now. Not worried at all. Now,
Josh
the
can't
one
escape
big
it.
problem though, is if so my wife makes kimchi fried rice with ground pork, and it's just amazing with homemade kimchi.
That sounds so good.
Oh, it's the greatest thing. When you guys come for Tex Fest, she'll make some. Now if she puts it in Tupperware, it definitely stains the Tupperware. So that is a concern. A little bit of stain, but you know what? Look, I'll do what I need to for the team. I'm committed. This is I have proven I have commitment.
Yeah, you certainly have. I don't have a particularly good nomination. I think I would just go with something that I wouldn't mind having to rub on myself. Like an apple is like pretty good, like something with skin where there's not a whole lot of like juice involved. I think it would be preferable for me. I don't know. What do you think?
That's what
Danny?
she said.
Do you have a yeah?
I've thought about this long and hard for the last 2 minutes that we've been talking about it. And I think that my answer will be coconuts. All right, here's my thinking on this. Is that to emulate the hard-headedness of the referees in the Premier League, the coconut sort of symbolizes that. And also, like Alex said, this isn't the worst thing to be rubbing on yourself. People rub coconut oil on themselves all the time. Let's not get further into that. But the last 2 games have been blessedly free of VAR controversies. And honestly, it's been a breath of fresh air.
Us now.
I know. If there was going to be a game where it's going to be insane, it's going to be Nottingham Forest. Let's be real. But yeah, the last 2 games have been pretty unnotable from a refereeing standpoint. I can point to a couple decisions I wasn't thrilled with, but nothing to make you rage and look at a replay 20,000 times.
Yeah,
now he also said casting stuff for evil, and I'm trying to think of that. Like, who would be evil enough that we'd want to do it to? And then, of course, it's Morgan Gibbs White. So, but I don't know what we could do. And I don't want to mess with the juju just yet. We'll wait. As long as they keep scoring, I'm not doing nothing.
They don't even need our curses tonight. Night of recording, Wednesday. My Twitter timeline is filled with City fans hating on Mateus Nunes and Forest fans hating on Morgan Gibbs White. I saw one person say, if Steve Cooper goes somewhere else, I hope he can convince them to spend $25 million on Morgan Gibbs White.
Yeah, that's excellent. I don't know who I would want to wish evil on. I feel like that's just a really cruel thing to do. PGMOL is the only thing that I think I'm willing to be cruel enough, but I also don't know how you do that and not suffer consequences from that, right? So I actually want them to be better, not worse.
Yeah, it's like, are you gonna rub onions in their eyes? But then, I'm committed, but I don't know if I'm that committed. Like,
yeah. Also, to bring this whole thing full circle, to Danny's coconut point, another great use for coconuts, and I learned this week when my wife came home from the grocery store with a giant thing of coconut. No, it's not going where I think it's going. She came home with a giant thing of the coconut meat, or I guess it's called coconut milk, but it's like pulpy.
Okay.
Apparently, it is great for teeth whitening. So maybe we can ship our friend Steve Cooper some coconuts. As we had to end on teeth. I guess there's a TikTok trend or something. So she's like slushing around coconuts in her mouth, like gargling coconut meat. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Chase, for leading us down this lane and submitting your no stupid question, tweeting it at us at WLW Pod, the show's Twitter handle. And thank you, Esfuerzo Wines, for sponsoring everybody's favorite part of the show. Again, promo code Wolves at esfuerzowines.com. You'll get a 20% discount on your order. And what better gift ahead of the holiday season than some good wine by great people who support this fine show. So any more puns you're gonna sneak in, Josh, or can
No, I'm out of whiskey, so I think I've run out of puns. But help us out help us out, buy some Esfuerzo wines. Great partner. So yeah, and that includes you, Steve Cooper. Maybe there'll be some that'll brighten those pearls for you.
So that brings this week's show to an end. We're going to be back after that Forest game, break it all down, and then look forward to a clash against West Ham that following Sunday. So in the meantime, everybody, you know what to do. Up the mighty Wolves.